friends, we're going to be going through a 10-minute ScoliFlow sequence here, and we're going to start in standing by finding your best standing position, thinking about lining up nose and belly button so that your hips are centered underneath your trunk. You can also think about having equal spacing between your forearms and your hips. So if you have a mirror, or you can just tell by feel, they shouldn't be to one side or the other, but as centered under your trunk as possible. You've got equal weight through your feet, so you're standing tall, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, and hips over ankles. We're gonna take a breath in, imagining lifting your rib cage up away from your hips. And as you exhale, try to hold on to that length, pressure, and tension, engaging your core just a little bit here. We're gonna add a little arm elevation here next. So inhaling, lifting arms up towards the ceiling, and then exhaling, coming back down. Every breath in, imagine growing tall and wide. Every breath out, try to maintain that length, pressure, and tension. We're gonna do 3 more. Inhaling and lengthening, and then exhaling and lowering. Inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, lowering. You might choose to stay right here, but if you want a little bit of a challenge on your next few breaths, come up on your toes. Inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, lowering down. Inhaling and lengthening, and exhaling, lowering back down. 2 more. Inhale, grow tall and wide. Exhale, maintain that length, pressure, and tension. 1 more, inhale and lengthen, and then exhale and maintain. And then we're gonna come into a supine position here next. So when you are doing exercise for scoliosis, how you start and how you position yourself is really important. We always want to try to maintain our best alignment out of the curve, and we're always thinking in 3 dimensions. So when you go to lie down, think about lining up your hips underneath your trunk. Nose and belly button should feel aligned. You shouldn't have your hips scooted to one side or the other, but they should be just right underneath your trunk. You're gonna try to give yourself as much length as possible. So I like to give a little bear hug and wiggle up so you're really elongated here on the mat. Still keep shoulders and neck relaxed. And there are some different positions for your legs depending on your curve pattern, but we're gonna just stay right here for now with knees bent, feet flat. And we're gonna take a couple breaths in, thinking again about inhaling and lifting rib cage up away from your hips, creating space between your hips and your lower ribs, and then exhaling and keeping that nice equal spacing. So every breath in, you're inhaling and growing tall and wide, and every breath out, you're keeping that nice length, width that you created. And then next, we're gonna go ahead and bring arms up towards the ceiling here. And we're gonna start with a little bit of movement. As you inhale, send 1 arm back if you can, touch the ground behind you. If not, just go as far as you can comfortably. Inhaling as you're lengthening, stretching your arm back behind your head. Exhaling as you're pulling up. Touching down to the ground if you can, if it feels okay. And if not, just going as far as you can comfortably. You might notice that there's a little bit different range between one shoulder and the other. That's all right. You can just think about getting as much length through your spine as possible and not forcing shoulder motion if it doesn't want to naturally go. And then come on back up, bring your hands down to your sides, and we're gonna lift up feet here. And we're gonna start just by doing this 90-90 hold. So just lifting feet, holding them here. And think about inhaling and breathing into the concavities of your back. Every breath in, again, trying to create space. Every breath out, maintaining some nice activation, pressure, and tension. And then on your next few breaths, we're gonna start Just doing some heel taps, tapping one heel down towards the ground and then another. Just like with arms, you don't need to touch your heels to the ground. You can do a smaller movement. The key is really that you're stabilizing through your core here, that you're keeping that nice core engagement. We're always trying to maintain our best postural correction too. So you really need to have a good understanding of your curve pattern and where you tend to maybe collapse into your curve or rotate a little bit more depending on the movement that you're doing, because you should always be having this internal dialogue of, am I in my curve pattern, yes or no? If yes, what are some things that I can do to get out of that curve and get into a little bit more stable position? An option is always to make the exercise easier, but sometimes just that awareness is enough that you can perform the same movement, but with better quality, better control. Let's bring feet back down. And so really when it comes to movement and exercise with scoliosis, I can't say it's so important just to have that really clear understanding of the shape of your spine and how it's moving, because not every exercise is going to work for everyone. We're gonna go ahead and come up into sitting from here. And when you sit, there are lots of different options. So you can sit like I am here if that's comfortable for you. This is a really comfortable position for me, but for a lot of people it's not. So you can also sit up on a little stool, on a yoga block. You could sit cross-legged. You could even come and sit in a chair. You're just trying to find the position that you feel like you can sit with equal weight through your sit bones, sitting up nice and tall, lining ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over ankles. I'm gonna go ahead and bring fingertips up to shoulders here, and we're gonna take a couple breaths again. Inhaling, lengthening and expanding, and then exhaling, pressing elbows wide, pressing head and hips in opposite directions. Since scoliosis is 3D, we are always trying to do the best that we can about getting correction in all three planes of motion. But if you don't know what to do, you are never wrong to try to elongate your spine. So you can always think about pressing your head and hips opposite directions. Creating length and width is always correct, regardless of your curve. Inhaling and lengthening, and then exhaling, keeping that nice length, pressure, and tension. A couple more breaths here. Inhale, lengthen and expand, and then exhale, hold it right there. Keep that nice pressure and tension here. I'm gonna bring my hands down to my lap for a moment and come into a position on all fours. So placing hands right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath hips. Again, thinking about that alignment, using your breath to assist to create stability through your trunk. Take a couple of breaths here. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of glute work here today. So we're gonna try lifting one leg out to the side and then back down, trying to keep spine nice and neutral. So lifting less is fine. Better to lift less and feel like you are under control. You're not collapsing into your curve. You're keeping your spine neutral than to lift a lot and lose that control. So again, having that internal dialogue and really clear picture of what your curve looks like and how well you can control this movement is important. You need to know where the concavities of your back are, where your spine is more at risk to shorten or collapse with movement, where your spine rotates, so you can work on controlling that rotation. But above all else, try to maintain good alignment and elongation. Again, that's always a good place to be. We're gonna try lifting one arm out front, lowering it back down here, and then the next. So when it comes to movement like this, we know we're going to lose some correction as soon as you start to add movement versus your static corrections. And so pausing in between your workouts, pausing as you're doing the exercise and trying to reset, find your best correction is helpful. And so that sometimes means slowing down. It sometimes means taking a little rest break between sets of movement here. But you just want to bring that continued focus to where are my hips in relation to my trunk? How is my spine rotating? Where might I be collapsing into my curve? And what you can do to stop that. If you don't already have a really clear picture of the shape of your spine and what that means for your 3D postural correction, you really need to start there, because without that, you will not be getting the most that you possibly can out of your exercises. So I really do think that that is the foundation for all of the, not only scoliosis-specific exercises and correction, but also just general movement and fitness. It really all comes from having that very clear picture of this is how my body is built, this is what works for me and how my body moves, and these are some things that I can do to get the most out of exercise. If you have questions about that or you're not sure, look for someone who has specific scoliosis training as a physical therapist in your local area. A lot of us are doing more virtual work now too, so you may have some options that you didn't know you had before. I also see people virtually, but I know people all around the country are out there and wanting to help. So if you haven't had that one-on-one experience with someone to really go over your unique curve, I highly recommend finding someone who will do that for you. And like I said, I'm happy to be that person, but I may also be able to connect you to someone else if you're not sure who that person should be. All right, thanks for joining, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.